question is a yes and no question. And they are only looking for a yes or no answer, so we won't need 2 minutes for this, I don't think. Perhaps we will. Okay. Are you in favor of tearing down old buildings on Franklin, Minnesota, in Minnesota avenues, or renovating them? Bill, let's start with you. Take 2 minutes if you need.
Am I in favor of tearing them down?
Are you in favor of tearing down old buildings on Franklin Street, Minnesota Avenue, or renovating them?
I think that at the condition of one building that you may be looking at, it needs to be torn down. It can't be renovated. Another one on Minnesota Avenue is debatable if it can be renovated or not. If I'm thinking of the same buildings, the question is. So I would say I am in favor of renovating one and tearing another one down.
Thank you. Shannon, are you in favor of tearing down old buildings on Franklin Street and Minnesota Avenue, or renovating them?
Definitely the one in Franklin Street, I believe, needs to go. I believe that that is a huge hazard to our city. It has put a dark mark on us after we've gotten rid of all the other bad things. And the one in Minnesota Avenue, I think there could be some renovation that could be done there.
Okay. Scott?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Would you like the question? Or
I'm okay just answering it.
okay, go ahead.
Didn't mean to interrupt, sorry.
No, that's fine.
Basically, when it comes to that, I don't know that there's a real yes or no answer, but one of the things that I do want to point out is Franklin Avenue and Minnesota Avenue are the two entrances and the areas that everybody comes into this town on, one way or the other. So I think if a building can be renovated, that's great, but at the same point in time, if the costs are going to be so cost prohibitive that you can't do that, and it's cheaper to tear down and rebuild, such as what happened with the Culligan properties, I think that there are times that you need to tear things down and start over.
Bill, 30 seconds to react if you'd like.
Well, yeah, we might as well call the buildings which ones we're talking about. The Freeman building on Franklin Street has been tax forfeited, and it should be torn down. Now the question is, who is going to tear it down and who's going to pay for it? And so that is, the county has the control of that building at this time. The other one on Main Street is a private party that owns the building. And so we may have a little trouble just tearing that down. I gotta stop, she says.
Shannon, 30 seconds.
I agree with Bill too. Unfortunately, it's hard when a property that's in the city of Glenwood is turned over to the county instead. So that way too, if the county owns it, you know, how come they're not tearing it down? But yet it's in the city, so, you know, it's a sore spot for us. In the other building, I think, yeah, we need to try to renovate that.
Okay. Scott?
Again, I'm not looking to target any specific buildings on Minnesota or Franklin Avenue, but there are times that there have been buildings there that have been to the point of condemnation and they need to be torn down. You can't let those types of things stay up and down. One of the proposals that have been talked about with the former Culligan properties was putting a billboard up over the front of it and covering it so that people didn't see what was behind it. To me, that wasn't an acceptable option or approach. I mean, that was one idea that was explored at one point in time, I should say.
Shannon, we're to you 2 minutes on this question, and I think this is a question. Let me just get through it. With a great deal of conversation related to revitalizing the downtown, what challenges would that revitalization face with the 2018 complete streets plan? I believe they're talking about revitalizing businesses, bringing businesses back to Main Street, and the challenges that would face those businesses with the 2018 complete street plan related to tearing up Minnesota Avenue.
Yeah, it's like if we want new businesses to come and then we're going to tear up the street, how do people get to their businesses? That is a huge problem. One thing I can say is behind where the bank parking lot is and stuff, there is easily accessible parking back there for people to get in the back doors. However, on the other side of Minnesota Avenue, that parking lot would have to be totally revitalized too, so that way people have a way to get to those businesses. And, too, it's like if we work so hard to get them to come here, I think we need to have a plan for them, so that way when the street project does come, they are able to have people come to their businesses.
Scott, I'm going to try to get this right. It's kind of rambling. With a great deal of conversation related to revitalizing the downtown businesses, what challenges would that revitalization face with the 2018 Complete Streets Plan?
If I understand the question correctly, I think it's getting at a portion of what Shannon talked about, and that is during 2018 there are going to be some struggles that some of those businesses will have. One of the things that I'll say is I've been following the Alexandria Downtown Project very closely and trying to work as much with them as possible and learn from them, which is also how this street project kind of came into existence. They've done a number of things this year to help those businesses and to bring businesses to them. And I think over the next couple of years, we really need to take a look at which businesses are going to be affected, how they're going to be affected, and put the plans in place so that we help them through that summer. But I think once we get past that summer, it's going to be a major improvement. I think it's going to be a little bit of a challenge still to attract businesses prior to that. But after that, hopefully we're on our way.
And Bill, with a great deal of conversation related to revitalizing the downtown businesses, I'm going to add that word, the downtown businesses, what challenges would that revitalization face with the 2018 Complete Streets Plan?
That's going to be a huge challenge. Let's be realistic about it. The city is planning on putting in new sewer and water down the middle of the street. That means tearing up the street. That means running the sewer and water into the buildings on both sides of Main Street going down. And so there's going to be businesses that have to be shut down for a few days when that's going on. So it's going to be a big problem, and we're trying to plan for it ahead of time. And as Shannon said, it would be nice if we could make sure that all the businesses that are vital downtown have a back door or some way to get in to their businesses. We're also going to have another problem, I'm going to be honest with you, and that is when that is going on, all the trucks that go through this town are going to have to go over a block one way or the other, and that may tear up those streets and stuff. So we've been planning and looking and trying to work through this Complete Streets program, and hopefully we can keep all the businesses on Main Street, and they will spiff up, if that's the right term, their fronts and stuff when this project is going through, because it will be a new street, new sidewalk, new bike path, a lot of things. And so it would be nice if the businesses would cooperate also and try and get their buildings fixed up with their fronts.
Shannon, 30 seconds.
I definitely agree. There has to be a lot of planning to it, and I think that if we could be proactive in getting the planning going already, getting things ready for that by doing backdoor alleyways, cleaning those up, getting decent parking behind the businesses, I think that we can work it out.
Scott, 30 seconds, please.
I think there's a little bit more than just having the entrances available too. We do have a couple of businesses that have their only way to pull into their parking lot or get to their businesses is off of Minnesota Avenue too. So I think there's a number of things we're going to have to address. But the thing that I think that I don't want to see happen is that we get to a point of not addressing it soon enough and figuring that out. I don't think that we're going to have to shut any businesses down completely, but I think having plans in place to make some alternate arrangements or alternate locations is necessary.
And Bill, 30 seconds.
Well, as I said earlier, it's going to be a big problem. Hopefully we don't have to shut the businesses down. And we are planning, where we are talking about the city, plans for these things a long time in advance. And we are doing that right now.
Okay. Scott, 2 minutes on this, please. What do you know about property maintenance standards ordinance, and when will it be enforced?
Well, I know quite a bit about the property maintenance standards because I was facilitating brought that to the city commission, and I was also probably one of the primary presenters on that. When it comes to the property maintenance standards, what it really is it's an ordinance that was adopted earlier this year by the city commission. And what it does is it looks at the conditions and the upkeep and the maintenance of properties, whether it's residential, commercial, business, doesn't make any difference. If it's just an open lot, it's trying to clean up things where people aren't allowed under this ordinance to have junk sitting out, to have deteriorating buildings, to have buildings where there's doors and windows falling off, things that are unsafe, that kind of stuff. Like I said, the ordinance has been adopted. There are measurements in place that the city can make it enforceable through fines and fees and penalties and that kind of stuff. But it's only as good as the city is willing to stand behind it. If they're not willing to inspect what they expect or go out there and police, it's not going to happen. At the same point in time, I don't believe that the Board of Review has been established yet, and even though it was adopted, I believe it was in March of this year, I don't believe it's going to be effective. But one thing that does happen when it does go into effect is once that effective date is put into place, then there's 1 year that people have to bring it up to the standard that they need to do. It's a pretty comprehensive ordinance, but at the same point in time, it wasn't designed to single any particular business or individual or family out, but in order to properly maintain everything going on in the city so we don't get to a point of having condemned buildings and in a city that just doesn't look the way it should.
Scott explained it very well. His organization helped write it, and we reviewed it at the city commission level. And quite basically, we're moving carefully forward on it. We have to get inspectors in place and review boards in place and so on, and we have to be careful that you don't have personal feelings about something come into effect. For instance, one of my least favorite colors is pink. Now that's me, and if somebody has a pink house, does that mean he or she has to change the color? And I'm just using that as an example. The maintenance ordinance is always in the eye of the beholder, so we have to be very, very careful in implementing this so that it is not slanted one way or the other. You know, when you drive up and down Main Street, some of the houses and some of the buildings need some work. I think we all agree on that. But how much? And how much do you force somebody to do this? And that's why we're moving slowly and carefully on this maintenance ordinance so that we get it right and not be offensive. It's very, very improper, as far as I'm concerned, for some governmental agency to take property away from somebody else. You're not necessarily taking it, but you are certainly making them do something with their property that is your decision.
I wish it had been an ordinance a long time ago, actually. I think that, again, the city should have taken the reins and done this eons ago. Many people in town do have a lot of junk piled up. I know at times we have too. But you know, if we enforce an ordinance, I think we also have to have something available for people too. We know that there are a lot of senior citizens in town that do have junk in their yards, can't get rid of it. You know, we have helped people by hauling things out to Tom Kramer Incorporated. I think what would even help too along with that is if we did have, you know, a certain day a year for a cleanup in town where we could have, again, people leaving things out at the curb being hauled away. And by the way, our house hasn't been pink and purple for years, but I have to tell you, a man painted those colors, not a woman, so.
I don't think Bill was targeting anybody.
I didn't know your house was ever pink for that matter.
Scott, 30 seconds.
I think there's a couple of things here. Shannon mentioned the fact that it would be great to have a date set aside. The state ordinance actually has 2 days set aside, one in the spring and one in the fall, where the city, the chamber, the HRA, and other groups and organizations are meant to help assist with the community cleanup efforts. That could involve everything from just getting volunteers out there to do some different things, to finding ways to help property owners finance different things. There's a number of different ways that we're obligated through that ordinance to help people.
Bill, 30 seconds.
Well, I think it's a good ordinance, but like I said earlier, one has to be careful. And we are trying to be careful so that you are making sure that you get what you want, which is to clean up the city and the houses, but yet not take property from somebody by forcing them to do something.
Shannon, 30 seconds, please.
I just have one comment to make. When people cleaning up their houses, we've had people in our area that have repeatedly renewed building permits, and we have never stayed on them to finish their properties. Now, I think that should have been in those ordinances also, and we do need to enforce that.
Broadband communication is fundamental to business operations. Are there any plans to encourage fiber optic networks in the area?
Would you repeat that? I didn't catch the first part.
Yep. Broadband communications is fundamental to business operations. Are there any plans to encourage fiber optic networks in the area?
We have fiber optic networks in the area of Glenwood. There are some outlying cities, Glenwood being one, that does not have broadband coming into their system. Coming into their manufacturing plants. The county is currently working on that to try and get the broadband into Massman over there. And but here in town, there's a number of fiber optic thing. I believe Charters is, I'm not positive, but I don't have Charter. But, as far as broadband is concerned, I know some of our businesses in town have broadband cables under the street currently, right here in town. I don't know if I'm explaining that well enough. I think we already have it. I don't know why we have to do something to get it, unless we're helping out a neighboring town like Glenwood.
Well, I believe too that we do have fiber optics. In fact, a few years ago when they ran them underneath my driveway sank. That was my experience with it. However, I do think that we have a great network of, we've got Charter, Quest, CenturyLink, many available internet services, phone services here. One thing that would be nice though is with going along with that, radio stations, being able to have better reception for radio stations here in town.
I think the thing that I would point out is that currently through the state of Minnesota has set aside money through deed in order to help progress some of those efforts. One of the things that I would actually like to see happen, even though we may have some of those functionalities in town already, is with the Complete Street project coming up in 2018, because we are redoing everything, building front to building front all the way through Minnesota Avenue. I'd really like to know for certain that we're up to date on the technology and that the fiber optics cables and networks and stuff that are in town are what is the most recent. And if not, that's our opportunity to actually move forward and try to update that and increase that or expand it. Once we also get down to the edges of town, I do think Glenwood has an opportunity to start working with surrounding communities, trying to help expand that outside of the area and stuff too. But I think Glenwood certainly could play a major role in helping to bring that to other areas of the community, of the county also, if we were to choose to help collaborate with different things and even offer some support and assistance.
The fiber optics is something that we should have in high-speed broadband, and it is here, and it is running around town. Some of our businesses, I believe ABF, has fiber optics all over town, in the ground. So we have it, but maybe some of our neighboring communities don't.
Shannon, 30 seconds.
Yeah, as far as I know too, we do have it here, and I don't know about other communities either.
Okay, Scott?
The only thing I'll say is that I know that we do have it here, but because of the fact that several businesses do identify the fact that we have issues with it, I really would still like to see something be done to take a look at it and see if we are currently up to date with the most current technology and utilize that street project in order to benefit us even more if that option is there.
Okay, that is, because of time constraints, I think that we need to get people home. What I would like to do is I would like to have each candidate make a closing statement about a minute long. We can start with Mayoral. Would you like to start?
Yes, I guess this is the time to put in a political push. I would like to be re-elected. I think I've done a good job the past 4 years, and hopefully I can serve another 4 years. And as long as I'm talking about that, I wanted to read something in the ad of mine that will be coming out tomorrow. Future plans for Glenwood include expansion of city's sewage lagoon system, extending a larger 10-inch water main from 4th Street northeast to downtown area, south and west from there, replacing the city's street lighting on Minnesota Avenue and Franklin Street, improvements to the beach to make it more family friendly, and continuing working on stormwater management within the city and many other issues. There is a plan. There is a plan for all of this, and the money is being set aside in each budget for these improvements. Thank you.
Shannon, 1 minute, please.
I would like to thank everyone again tonight for coming out and listening to us debate. I know I have talked to a lot of you people here, and I would like to ask for your vote.